are going to see life is here and it's coming to you from the monsters.
If you just finished watching The Bride and you're sitting there thinking, wait, what exactly just happened? Yeah, you're not alone. The movie ends in a way that's chaotic, poetic, and honestly a little confusing. But that's kind of the point. Director Maggie Gyllenhaal clearly wasn't trying to give us a neat, tidy ending. Instead, the film throws us into a mix of horror, dark comedy, and art house storytelling that pays tribute to Frankenstein while also winking at young Frankenstein. But beneath all that weirdness is a pretty powerful message about identity, independence, and women refusing to be controlled. And by the time the movie reaches its explosive ending, the story of The Bride becomes something much bigger than just a monster movie. Let's break it all down.
I am a monster.
So am I.
The final twist. Are the monsters alive again? So after living alone for more than a century, Frankenstein, who has now taken his father's name, decides he doesn't want to exist by himself anymore. And honestly, can you blame him? After 111 years of loneliness, he goes to see Dr. Euphronius, hoping she can help him create a companion. That's where the whole story begins. They dig up a body from a pauper's grave and bring her back to life. But things spiral out of control almost immediately. The woman they resurrect becomes the bride, played brilliantly by Jessie Buckley. And instead of becoming the quiet partner Frankenstein expected, she becomes something completely different. Very quickly, their journey turns into this chaotic, Bonnie and Clyde style escape story. Frankie ends up killing two men who try to assault the bride. And then things get even worse when she kills a police officer in self-defense. Now suddenly they're both fugitives, and the police launch a massive manhunt. And here's where things get really emotional. Right before everything collapses, Frankie proposes to her. Now you'd expect this to be a romantic moment, right? The monster finally finds someone like him, but the bride rejects him. And weirdly enough, Frankie actually smiles when she does. Moments later, the police open fire and kill him. Yeah, it's brutal. But the story doesn't stop there. The bride takes Frankie's body back to Dr. Euphronius, begging her to bring him back to life again. Unfortunately, the doctor says it's impossible. Then Detective Malloy shows up. The police swarm the house, and in a hail of gunfire, they kill the bride too. Both monsters lie dead on the floor together. And honestly, it feels like the story is over. But here's the wild part. Detective Malloy orders all the officers to leave the house so Dr. Euphronius and her maid Greta can prepare to answer questions. She clearly knows something is about to happen. She gives them time. The movie never actually shows what happens inside the lab after the police leave. Instead, we stay outside with Malloy. She looks up at the house, and suddenly there's this massive electrical boom. The lab lights start flashing. Then the film cuts to one final shot. The bride's hand moves, then Frankie's hand moves, and they slowly reach for each other and hold hands. That's it. That's where the movie ends. No explanation, no escape scene, just two monsters possibly coming back to life again while an entire police force surrounds the building. Could they really escape? Probably not. But the ending isn't about logistics, it's about hope. Even after everything, the violence, the betrayal, the tragedy, these two outsiders might still get another chance at existence.
What are you sorry for? Did you do something wrong?
Now let's talk about one of the strangest parts of the movie. Because from the very first scene, Mary Shelley is literally in the story. Jessie Buckley actually plays her as well, which is already pretty wild casting. The movie opens with Mary Shelley standing in this almost theatrical spotlight talking directly to the audience. She explains how she couldn't say everything she wanted in her original novel. Society wouldn't allow it. But now she can finally speak her truth. And then something bizarre happens. She seems to possess a young escort named Ida, again played by Buckley. Suddenly, Ida starts accusing a wealthy man in a restaurant of abusing and murdering women. It's uncomfortable, chaotic, and everyone around her thinks she's crazy. Then two men drag her outside, and one of them kills her by throwing her down the stairs. Yeah, the movie gets dark fast. From that moment onward, the story starts blurring reality and imagination. When Frankenstein resurrects her, Ida becomes the bride. But Mary Shelley's voice keeps appearing throughout the film, almost like she's guiding or influencing her. Sometimes she speaks directly to the bride, who is now called Penny, short for Penelope, the name Frankie gives her. You know what's crazy? The movie never clearly explains whether this possession is real or symbolic. Some scenes feel completely surreal, like they're happening inside Penny's mind. Others feel very real. Take the big dance sequence, for example. At first, it looks like a dream or hallucination, but later, the film makes it clear that it actually happened. Honestly, it feels like Mary Shelley is using the bride as a vessel, a way to finish telling the story she couldn't tell back in the 1800s. By the end of the movie, Shelley reveals the truth about the wealthy man from the restaurant, crime boss Lupino, played by Zlatko Buric. She lists the names of the women he murdered, and suddenly everything clicks. The bride isn't just a monster, she's vengeance. She's Mary Shelley's rage, finally unleashed on a world that protects powerful men. The dark truth behind the detective's investigation. Now let's talk about the two detectives hunting the bride and Frankenstein throughout the movie. The first one is Jake Wiles, played by Peter Sarsgaard. On the surface, he seems like the typical tough cop leading the investigation, but honestly, he's hiding a pretty ugly secret. Before Ida died, she had been working undercover to gather information on Lupino. During that time, Wiles actually slept with her. When she died, he blamed himself, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Wiles was also helping cover up Lupino's crimes. So the guilt he carries isn't just emotional, it's moral. He knows he's part of the system that allowed those murders to happen. Then there's Myrna Molly, played by Penelope Cruz, and honestly, she's probably the smartest character in the entire movie. Molly constantly gets overlooked by the male officers around her. They treat her like an assistant rather than the brilliant detective she actually is. Eventually, Wiles resigns, but he makes one condition before leaving. He gets to choose his replacement, and he picks Molly. Why? Because deep down, he knows she's the only person who might actually try to fix things. Molly becomes another reflection of the film's central theme. Women being held back by powerful men, but still finding ways to fight back. And that's why she gives Dr. Euphronius the chance to revive the bride and Frankie at the end. She knows they deserve it.
Why the bride said, "I'd prefer not to." One of the most important lines in the movie is also one of the simplest, "I'd prefer not to." The bride says it several times throughout the story, and she repeats it again when Frankie proposes to her. Now that line actually comes from Herman Melville's short story, Bartleby the Scrivener. In that story, the phrase is used as a form of passive resistance, a quiet but powerful way of refusing to obey authority. That's exactly what it means here, too. Real talk, this moment completely flips the traditional Frankenstein story on its head. Normally, the bride is just created to be a partner for the monster. She exists for him, but in this film, she refuses that role. She doesn't want to become someone's wife just because she was created for that purpose. She wants to define her own identity. And surprisingly, Frankie understands. Instead of getting angry, he smiles, because for the first time, someone is choosing their own destiny, something he never had the chance to do. It's actually one of the most beautiful moments in the film.
I didn't want any of this!
Lupino's brutal fate in the mid-credit scene. Just when you think the movie's finished, it sneaks in one final twist during the mid-credit scene. Earlier in the film, we see groups of women painting the bride's distinctive markings on their faces. It becomes a symbol of rebellion, a way of standing up against abusive men. But here's the wild part. That movement spreads. In the mid-credit scene, several of those women are gathered in a room. Wiles is standing there too. Then the camera slowly reveals Lupino tied to a chair. A tattoo artist is painting the bride's markings onto his face, and if you look closely, his tongue might be gone, which is darkly poetic because Lupino had a disturbing habit of collecting the tongues of the people he murdered. Now the same thing might have happened to him. It's revenge, justice, or maybe both. And in a strange way, it means Ida finally gets her vengeance, even after death.
They did it on purpose.
Our nerdy thoughts. At the end of the day, Bride isn't really about monsters at all. It's about women reclaiming their voices. Mary Shelley couldn't fully express her anger in the 1800s. Ida was murdered by powerful men who thought they'd never face consequences. Malloy was constantly underestimated. But by the end of the film, all of those voices merge together in The Bride. She refuses to belong to anyone. She refuses to stay silent. And even when the world literally kills her for that independence, the story suggests she might rise again. Honestly, that's what makes the ending so powerful. Because the monster isn't the problem. The system that created the monster is.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.